I didn't even know his real name until the police showed me his driver's license. By then, he was already gone. Not dead, just gone. Vanished in a way that didn't make sense for someone you lived with, loved, cooked for, cried with. He disappeared with the precision of a man who had done it before, a man who planned for this, a man who never meant to stay. We were together for 3 years. 3 full years of birthdays, holidays, shared bills, slow mornings, date nights, stupid arguments, deep apologies. We had traditions. We had a favorite Thai place, a song we always danced to in the kitchen. I thought he was building a life with me. He was building a lie. I wish I could tell you there were signs, red flags, warnings I ignored, but there weren't, not the kind that stand out until hindsight kicks you in the chest. He was perfect. That's what makes this worse. We met at a conference for nonprofit leaders. I was presenting. He was consulting on international aid ethics, he said. We chatted during the cocktail hour. He wore a navy jacket and drank bourbon neat. He asked smart questions, not flirty, curious. He remembered what I said about generational poverty and asked about the book I was referencing. He made me feel seen, heard, like what I did mattered. After the event, he walked me to my car. He didn't ask for my number, just smiled and said, "We'll run into each other again." He was right. We ran into each other 2 weeks later, this time at a bookstore. He said it was fate. I thought maybe it was. I gave him my number. We got coffee the next day. That coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into weekends, then months, then years. He said his name was Alex Madison. He said he worked for a global firm specializing in international compliance and policy, kind of like UN adjacent, he joked. He said he traveled often, mostly to Africa and Europe, consulting with governments and NGOs. It all sounded glamorous, but hard. He made it sound thankless, which somehow made it noble. I never questioned it. Why would I? He left early, came home late, traveled with little notice. I didn't ask for details because he made it seem like the details were boring, government stuff, classified things. "I don't want to bore you," he'd say, and when I did ask, he'd smile, pull me close, distract me with warmth. "You know everything that matters." It felt intimate, like a privilege. I was stupid. But not because I loved him, because I believed him, because when he'd say he was in Zurich or Nairobi or Tel Aviv, I'd text him good night like he was just a little farther away, not in a completely different reality. And then one night he didn't come home. We were supposed to have dinner. I'd made a reservation for his birthday. He asked for something low-key, but I surprised him with his favorite wine and a small cake. I bought new earrings. I was excited. He never showed. At first I thought flight delay. Maybe a crisis overseas. Maybe he forgot to charge his phone. Something logical. Until I called him. And he didn't answer. Once, twice, 10 times. Until finally, my hands shaking, I called the number that had appeared as a missed call on my phone just 2 hours before. A number I didn't recognize, but now felt urgent. A woman answered, calm, curious. "Hello?" I stammered. "Hi. Someone from this number called me earlier. I think it was a mistake, but—" Silence. Then a pause. Then she said it. One word. "Matthew?" I said. "No. I'm looking for Alex." Another pause. Longer this time. And then she hung up. I sat there staring at the phone like it had punched me in the mouth. "Matthew!" I stared at the contact photo of Alex, him smiling at the lake we'd visited last fall. I called again, straight to voicemail. I waited an hour, 2, all night. He never came home. The next morning, I went to the police. I told them he might be missing, that he'd never stayed out like this before, that he always checked in. They were kind at first, took my name, his name, asked for identifying details, and then something changed. One officer stepped out to check something. The other started asking different questions. "How long have you known him? Do you have any relatives who can confirm his identity? Do you know if he has any aliases?" I said, "No." They looked at each other. The first officer came back in and sat down, and then he placed a file in front of me. It was thin, no more than 10 pages. Inside were photos, a license, a different name, Matthew Ryan Sutter. Born in 1983, from Michigan, No mention of Alex Madison. No reference to international compliance. Just a man with a trail of different addresses, a few minor offenses, trespassing, disorderly conduct. Nothing major, but nothing that made sense either. I asked them what this was. They said it was him. That the alias matched and pointed to a name 10th on the list. That my boyfriend, the man I lived with, loved, trusted, was not who he said he was. He didn't exist, not legally, not professionally, not in any of the systems they could check. And just like that, the bottom dropped out of my life. It felt foreign and sticky in my mouth, like something I shouldn't be saying. Like speaking it aloud might shatter something deeper than just my relationship. I stared at the printout the police handed me. The photo was unmistakable. It was him, same eyes, same dimple on the right side when he smiled. But the name? The background? It didn't fit. There was no career in international policy, no conference appearances, no travel visas, just a man with a basic high school diploma, a string of odd jobs, and a legal history so clean it felt curated. The officer said he wasn't in any active trouble. There were no warrants. But when I asked how long ago the names started, he just looked at me and said, "You should talk to a lawyer." I didn't go home. I couldn't. Instead, I drove around until the sun dipped below the trees. Then I parked in a grocery store lot and opened my laptop. I typed both names into every search engine I could think of. Alex Madison. Matthew Ryan Sutter. Alex Madison, international compliance. Matthew Sutter, fraud. Nothing useful. But the address on his original license was still listed. A small town in Michigan I'd never heard of. I called the number from earlier again. No answer. I called from a different number. This time, the woman picked up. I didn't say anything at first, just listened to her breathe on the line. Then I asked, "How do you know Matthew?" There was a pause, long and weighted, and then a voice I'll never forget said, "He's my husband." Everything inside me went quiet, not angry, not sad, just quiet, like someone pressed pause on the part of me that could feel. I asked her to repeat it. She did, slow, firm, tired. "My husband's name is Matthew. We've been married for 8 years. 8. I hung up before I could hear anything else. Or maybe I didn't hang up. Maybe my fingers just let go. The phone slid from my hand and clattered to the floor of the car. I didn't cry. I should have. But I didn't know what to cry about first. That he lied about his name, his job, his identity, or that I had just spoken to a woman who slept beside the same man I kissed goodnight and had no idea her life was about to catch fire? My phone buzzed an hour later. Blocked number. I answered. His voice, calm, almost clinical. "I need you to stop digging." That was it. No explanation, no denial, just a command. I screamed at him, asked him where he was, what this was, why. He said, "I'm sorry you had to find out this way." Then he hung up. I sat in that car for 6 hours. When I finally got back to the apartment, everything of his was gone. All the things that proved he'd been there, his shoes, his watch, the framed photo of us in Montreal, the USB drive he kept on his keychain, even the little blue mug he used for his morning coffee. Gone. But he left the bed unmade. His drawer open, half a bottle of shampoo, and the trash can in the bathroom, filled with a receipt from 3 days ago with both our names on it, like he wanted me to know he'd been real, that the lie had roots, that it hadn't all been fake. But it was, because you don't erase yourself unless the version they love isn't the one you are. I called the woman back. This time I told her everything, how we met, where we lived, how long, the vacations, the future plans. She didn't say a word, just silence. Then she asked if I'd ever been to Michigan with him. I said no. She said, "He told me he was working for an NGO in Somalia. He'd told me he was consulting in Brussels. Same week, same lies, different continents." She started to cry. I finally did too. We stayed on the phone until sunrise. By the end, we weren't strangers. We were both leftovers. We had been sold a dream. We had both slept next to a man who smiled in his sleep and kissed our foreheads and talked about children one day. And none of it was real. The only thing more painful than betrayal is realizing it wasn't even personal. He didn't betray you, he betrayed everyone. 2 weeks passed before I opened the drawer in the hallway. I hadn't touched it since he left, since I came back to a home that felt like a crime scene. But that drawer, it always held things he said weren't important. Scraps, junk, old mail. He once called it the miscellaneous graveyard. But inside, under a tangle of cords and dried-out pens, I found an envelope, thick, sealed, unmarked. I knew the second I touched it that it wasn't mine. I opened it, and everything inside me dropped. There were bank statements from an account I didn't recognize, an account opened under my name, but not in my handwriting. The signature was mine, but not mine, a mimic, a practiced forgery. So close, I almost believed I had opened it and simply forgotten. But I didn't forget. I never opened this account, never deposited the $30,000 that sat inside. The deposits had started exactly 6 months after we met. Every month, $5,000. Every transaction, cash. No explanation, no employer, just anonymous deposits into a joint account with my name on it, and his. I sat down on the floor and stared at the paper until the words blurred. Then I called the bank. I gave them my name, my address, my social. They confirmed the account, and then they asked, "Would you like to speak with your financial advisor?" I laughed, out loud, but they weren't joking. He had listed himself as my financial proxy. He'd set up alerts to go directly to his phone. He had built an entire paper trail with me at the center. I felt nauseous. The woman on the line asked if I wanted to file a fraud claim. I said yes. Then I called a lawyer. The lawyer told me the obvious. I'd been used. But he said something else, too. If the money in that account came from another person, like a personal friend, then he may have been laundering personal funds to create clean assets under your identity. I didn't even know what that meant. He explained, if Matthew, Alex, whoever he was, had stolen money from someone and needed to hide it, the best way was to put it somewhere no one would think to look, like under the name of a woman he was sleeping with. I wasn't just a cover, I was a tool. And the worst part? The money was probably hers. The other woman, the wife, the one I'd spoken to in the dead of night. I wanted to call her again, tell her everything, but I didn't know how to say, "I think he used me to clean your money." Instead, I went to my parents. I hadn't told them anything yet. My dad sat quietly while I talked. My mom didn't. She got up halfway through, went to the kitchen, and came back with a photo. It was old, faded. She handed it to me and said, "Is this him?" I blinked. It was. Him. Younger, longer hair, standing next to someone I didn't recognize. I asked her where the photo was from. She said, "Your cousin's wedding." 6 years ago. I stared at the photo. It didn't make sense. I hadn't met him until 3 years ago. Had I? My mom continued, "I remember him because he danced with you. You were tipsy, kept calling him James Bond." I didn't remember, but there he was, in the photo, next to me, smiling, like he knew, like this wasn't a coincidence. It was a plan. He had found me years before I thought I'd found him, and that changed everything. Because if he'd seen me before, if he'd danced with me, if he remembered me, then our meeting at the conference wasn't fate. It was a setup. Every question he asked, every place he said he bumped into me, every moment I thought was magic was manufactured, and I didn't know why. Not yet, but I was starting to understand what kind of man I'd really let into my life. I tried not to Google it, but I couldn't stop myself. The bank account, the forged documents, the wedding photo from years before we met. It all pointed to something deeper, something older than just me. So I typed it in, the company name he said he worked for, Capstone Global Solutions. He'd used it on invoices, on travel slips. Once I saw the logo on a letterhead, but when I searched for it online, nothing. No website, no employees on LinkedIn, no business listings, no tax ID, just an empty shell, like it had never existed. But I remembered a detail. The invoice he once printed, it had a number at the bottom, not a phone number, a DUNS number. That's a unique identifier used for businesses, so I searched that. And it hit. Capstone Global Solutions was registered to a P.O. box in South Dakota, and it was dissolved 3 months ago. I dug deeper. There were other companies tied to that address, dozens, all opened and closed in 2 to 3 year intervals, all under different names. But a few had directors with familiar names, not his, but hers. The wife. She had been listed as a managing partner in a company called Everstitch Consulting. I froze. She wasn't just a victim. She was in on it. Or had been. Maybe once, or maybe she didn't even know what he was up to. I didn't know what was worse, if she had helped him, or if she had been used like I was. I made a burner email and reached out to one of the other dissolved businesses listed under the same P.O. box, posed as a vendor, asked about Capstone. 2 days later, I got a reply. No signature, no greeting, just one sentence. Get out while you can. I shut the laptop and didn't open it for 3 days. When I did, I found another email waiting for me. Different address, different tone. Is this about Matthew? I said yes. She sent a phone number. Her name was Celine. She'd met him in Chicago, said she worked at a conference where he'd been a keynote speaker. Except now, looking back, she wasn't sure he was ever on the program. He'd crashed the event, charmed the staff, and slipped in like he belonged. They dated for 6 months. He disappeared after she asked to meet his family. She found out later that he'd used her name to open a business loan, one that defaulted, wrecked her credit, and left her facing legal threats. Same pattern, a different city. She told me something else. He had mentioned me, said he had an ex in New York who wouldn't leave him alone. That was me. He was using me as the crazy ex to explain his disappearances to the next woman. Like clockwork. I asked her if she had any proof, anything that could tie him to the business fraud. She sent me a PDF. It was a contract, signed by Alex Madison, representing Capstone Global Solutions, agreeing to provide consulting services for a government subcontractor. It was fake. Obvious to anyone who looked closely, but to someone rushing through paperwork, it looked real enough. I recognized the signature. It was the same forged version of mine from the bank account, only now it was signed as him. He used the same hand, the same style, the same stroke weight. He forged his own name to match mine, because he didn't exist. Not really. Not legally. He was a ghost, made of borrowed names and stolen details. I started to notice other things. Our lease, signed under a corporate guarantor I'd never looked into. Our insurance, paid for from an account that didn't have my name on it at all. His tax documents never arrived. He didn't file, not under any of the names I knew. I called my lawyer again. He said, this is deeper than identity theft. He said it might qualify as financial grooming, as social engineering, as criminal impersonation. But unless I could find out who he really was, none of it mattered, because how do you charge a man who doesn't legally exist? How do you prove a crime against someone you can't name? That night, I went through every photo we had together, and I saw it. In all of them, the way he stood at just the right angle to obscure certain things, the way he always had an excuse to not tag himself in photos, the way he always paid in cash. He had built a life around remaining untraceable, and I had let him. Willingly, trustingly, lovingly. Celine texted me a few days later, said she found something in an old photo, a bracelet he wore. It had a crest. She sent it to a friend who was a historian. They traced it to a private boarding school in upstate New York. Elite, remote, expensive. I called the alumni office, told them I was trying to find an old friend. They asked for a name. I gave them both of them, Matthew Sutter, Alex Madison. They paused, then said, we've never had anyone under either of those names. But I could hear something in their voice, something tight, guarded. So I asked, do you recognize the photo? Silence. Then, we can't confirm enrollment for anyone not listed in our public alumni database. I said, I understand. Hung up. I called again 2 hours later from a different number, got a different rep, asked the same question. This time they gave me a name, not Matthew, not Alex, but a third name. Brandon Keene, another name on the list the police officer showed me. Born 1985, graduated 2003, no online record, no Facebook, no Instagram, just a ghost in a yearbook photo. But it was him. I'd finally found his real name, but on some level I wish I hadn't. Because what I found next would destroy everything I thought I knew, not just about him, but about what he might be running from. The name Brandon Keene felt like a sliver under the skin, small, invisible. But every movement made it burn. I searched everything: old newspapers, Reddit threads, alumni blogs, obituaries. I even went back to the yearbook. His face was there, all right. But what caught my eye wasn't him. It was the girl standing next to him in nearly every photo. Blonde, bright smile, the kind of face that lingered in your memory even when you didn't know her. Her name was Anna Bellamy. I clicked her profile on the alumni site, but it was blank. No contact info, no updates, just her photo and graduation year. I Googled her. Nothing recent. Then I added one word to the search: missing. And there it was. A blog post from 2009. Local NYU student disappears after party, foul play suspected. I clicked it. My heart started hammering. Anna Bellamy, 24, was last seen leaving a party in Brooklyn with a man described as tall, light brown hair wearing a gray coat. The sketch? Uncannily close to Brandon, Matthew, Alex. I clicked another article. And another. She was never found. The only piece of evidence? A bracelet, found in a riverbed near a hiking trail upstate. The same bracelet I'd seen on his wrist in Celine's photo. My stomach turned. I called my lawyer, who'd become my only lifeline. I asked him to run the name Brandon Keene through any legal database he could access. He called back a day later, said he'd changed his name twice, legally, once at 18, once again at 25. He'd used sealed records, but here's where it got worse. In 2012, he was questioned in connection with another missing woman. Different state, different story, same pattern, no charges, no arrest, just questioned and released. Then, in 2013, he left the country for nearly a year. No travel records under any of the names I knew, but he found a customs entry under Keene, returning from Colombia, alone. That was the year he met me. He reappeared on U.S. soil and immediately inserted himself into my life. I wasn't the first, and now I feared I wouldn't be the last. I reported what I found to the police. They took my statement, asked for documentation. I gave them everything: emails, photos, documents, but I could tell they didn't see it the way I did. They saw a bad breakup, a manipulative man, not a predator, not a ghost that leaves missing women behind like breadcrumbs, not someone who designs lives around exits. But I couldn't stop. I found an old forum, true crime addicts, armchair detectives. Someone had posted a thread in 2020, "The disappearance of Anna Bellamy. Was she another serial target?" Buried in the comments was a username, Shattered Glass 1985. She claimed to be Anna's best friend, said she'd been in contact with a man from their past shortly before Anna vanished. I messaged her, didn't expect a reply. But she did. Her name was Erin. She was a teacher now, said she hadn't spoken about it in years because nobody believed her. Until I showed up. She told me Anna had dated a guy named Brandon for a year. They were intense, toxic, on again, off again. But then something changed. Anna got scared, started skipping class, checking locks twice. Erin said she caught Anna crying once, said she was being watched, and then she vanished. No signs of struggle, no last words, just gone. They searched his apartment, nothing, no evidence, no link, but Erin said she always felt it, knew it. Because a week after Anna disappeared, Erin got a letter, mailed with no return address. Inside was a single sentence: "This is where you don't belong." It was typed. She said she burned it. I asked her why. She said, "Because it felt like a warning, like if I pushed too hard, I'd be next." I sat there for a long time after we hung up, thinking about the moments I called coincidence. The night he found me crying on the balcony, offering comfort like he'd read my script. The time I got a flat tire and he just happened to drive by. The way he always knew where I was, even when I didn't tell him. He didn't just appear in my life, he orchestrated it. I wasn't chosen, I was selected, like a file pulled from a drawer. It made me question everything. Was I really in love? Or was I chemically conditioned, trained to believe this was intimacy? Was he ever real? Did he ever care? I called my doctor, asked for a full STD panel, blood work, everything. I don't know what I expected. But when the results came back clean, I still didn't feel relief. I felt emptier, like I'd been discarded, like a rehearsal partner for something darker. And maybe I had. Because the deeper I looked, the more the lines blurred. Fake names, fake businesses, fake love. But the pain? That was real. The damage? Real. The bills in my name, the trust destroyed. The house that echoed when I walked through it now. All real. He didn't just lie, he rewrote me. And the final proof was waiting for me in the mailbox. A letter. Forwarded from our old apartment, from a law office in Virginia. Inside, a request for documents related to the estate of Marjorie Keene, along with a copy of her death certificate, his birth certificate, and a newspaper article. She had listed her only son Brandon as the beneficiary of the will. Now I had confirmation of his name, Brandon, born to Marjorie and Daniel Keene. Address listed, a house that burned down 20 years ago. The article attached said the fire was ruled accidental, but neighbors claimed there was a fight that night, screaming, glass breaking. One neighbor said the boy ran into the woods, alone. He wasn't seen again, just like how he disappeared in my life. That was the end of the road for me until it started with a message, not an email, not a phone call. A note, folded neatly, left under my windshield at the grocery store. No return name, no signature, just 3 words. I know him. I froze in the parking lot, staring at the handwriting. Tight, slanted, rushed. My skin crawled. I checked the lot. Nothing, no one. I took the note to my lawyer. He gave it to a detective buddy and ran prints. Nothing came back, but something in me couldn't let it go. I posted an anonymous thread in a survivors forum, detailing what I knew. No names, no photos, just shadows and patterns. A week later, I got a message, a burner account. They said, I met him in 2011. Name was Dylan. He gave me a black eye and a fake promise. My throat closed. I asked if they'd talk. They said yes, but not over the phone. Only in person and in public. I drove 4 hours to meet her. She waited at a diner. Baseball cap, hoodie, sunglasses even though it was overcast. She called herself Cassie, but I could tell that wasn't her real name. Didn't matter. Her story matched mine, almost perfectly. He was charming, brilliant. He could cook and quote poetry. He called her Sunshine. He asked to borrow her car once, never brought it back. She found it dumped at a gas station 2 states away. He'd left her license on the dash. She filed a police report. They said she'd loaned it. No crime. He'd left her with a mountain of debt and an eviction notice. But she got lucky. She had an uncle in the force. Quietly, off the books, they pulled traffic camera data, surveillance, and they traced him to a new address, to a hotel near a shelter, where he was seen speaking to another woman. Cassie tried to warn her. The girl disappeared a week later. That's when Cassie went underground. New name, new city. She kept tabs, though, because she couldn't forget him. She showed me a notebook, full of names, cities, dates, every place he'd been, every woman he touched. She called them blinks, because they vanished before anyone could see. Some resurfaced, some didn't. And me? She said I was the first one to come out the other side and talk about it, really talk, publicly, with a lawyer, with paperwork. She said he'd be watching me now, studying, because that's what he does before he disappears. I asked her what he wants, and she said, control, worship, obedience, and when you stop giving him those things, he punishes you. I asked her if she thought he'd do something even worse. She didn't blink. He already has. The sentence didn't feel like fear, it felt like a fact. I asked her why she left the note. She said, because you're the first person to put a name to the thing I've been running from. And then she handed me a flash drive with everything she knew, every lie he ever told her, and everything she saved. I took it, hands shaking. Inside that drive were files dating back a decade, hotel receipts, alias registrations, emails with patterns, same sentences recycled, different women. But one message stood out. It was a flight confirmation from 3 weeks ago, one way, international, and the name on the ticket, my name. He'd booked a flight in my name. To a country I'd never been, a place with no extradition treaty. He was trying to disappear again, but this time he wanted to leave a false trail. In case I came looking, in case anyone did. He wanted the world to think I left with him, or worse, that I helped him. I took the flash drive to my lawyer and he took me to his detective friend. At first, he didn't react, but then he saw the pattern. Multiple aliases, fraudulent accounts, disappearing women. It was more than a bad breakup. It was a web. He wasn't just a manipulator. He was a professional, a predator. I left that office feeling colder than I've ever felt. Because even though I had evidence, even though I had witnesses, I still didn't have him. He was gone. Again. But not forever. Because predators like him, they always circle back. And I knew one day he'd try. He'd need something, a new name, a place to land. And I wouldn't be the woman he fooled this time. I'd be the one waiting. I thought it was over for now, or at least paused. I had the flash drive, the survivor, the detective. I had proof that I wasn't crazy. I had pieces of him unraveling. But it never really ends, does it? Because trauma doesn't clock out. It just waits, quiet, patient, until your guard drops. And that's when it cut me open all over again. One phone call. That's all it took. We got him. He was trying to take her out of the country, under your name. I dropped the phone. I vomited. My legs gave out. I hit the floor, shaking so violently I couldn't breathe. Every moment flashed like static, sharp and disorienting. The way he knew exactly how to comfort me, how perfectly he mirrored my fears, the inside jokes, the ease, the intimacy. He made me believe I had known him my whole life. But I was never his partner. I was his mark, his obsession. And when he couldn't have me, he found someone else and made her into me, took her, broke her, molded her in my image, tried to vanish with her the same way he nearly vanished with me. As the FBI agent spoke, I felt myself go cold. That could have been me, and no one would have searched. They would have just assumed I'd gone with him. Just like they assumed she had. She'd told her family she was going on a luxury trip, didn't know when she'd be back, just like he coached her to say, gone in a blink, like he always planned it. The agent asked if I wanted to press charges, fraud, coercion, identity theft. I said yes, so did dozens of other women, but none of us could help them prove what happened to Anna, or the others still missing. He's locked up now, for life. It's not justice for them, but it's something for us. I moved, changed everything. I don't tell people where I came from, because the story isn't just painful, it's twisted, unbelievable, cruel. So I live quietly now, not in fear, but always awake,